It's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football, Wildcats, 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 football.
Welcome to the Married with Picks podcast, season 5, episode 1, week 1.
Yes, we're back for the 5th season, everybody. Can you believe that we're still doing this after 4 seasons? We're going to go for a 5th here.
You're awfully loud.
Trying to get pumped up. It's the first one of the year. Show a little excitement there, a little life, a little pizzazz.
Okay, here we are. We have 18 weeks ahead of us. I heard on the radio, what's better, week 1 or the Super Bowl? Let's say the Eagles are in the Super Bowl.
If the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, it definitely matters who's playing in the Super Bowl, right? Like how pumped up you're going to be. Like everybody watches the Super Bowl. Like if the Eagles are in the Super Bowl, then definitely the answer is the Super Bowl. But otherwise, it's week 1.
Okay. I think it's week 1. I don't care who's in the Super Bowl. All right. So I'm sure we say this every year, but there's a lot of changes in the offseason.
2024, man, this is going to be a great season. I mean, some of the changes are like really material. Like it's going to change the shape. I know,
but doesn't it feel like it's so much? It's going to change a lot.
Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Like coaches, quarterbacks, and just like skilled position players. Not so much running back, not so much wide receivers, but running backs. Like I had to write down who the starting running back is for each team.
Well, think about the rookie receivers. I mean, look at the NFL draft that happened in April, or was it May now? It's pushed back so much, but I mean, there were so many offensive players taken in the beginning of the draft, and all these guys are going to get a lot of burn. A lot of wide receivers are looking for impact positions for their new teams in 2024.
Okay. All right. So with that said, week 1 is going to be a bit of a learning experience because we don't know who a lot of these teams are anymore. So
I don't know about you, but I feel like, I don't know, I've done a lot of studying and I feel like I have a good grasp. And like I looked at the week 1 games and I like a lot.
Well, I like stuff, but I don't think it's going to go the way that you expect.
Oh, it never 100%. Does, right?
No, it never does.
Well, while we're talking, we're at halftime of the Kansas City. It's Thursday night. We're at the halftime of the Kansas City Ravens game and it's 13-10.
Yeah.
And Tucker missed a 50-yard field goal.
Huh. Okay. All right. So the first game is the Packers at the Eagles. This game is taking place in Brazil.
It is Brazil. You didn't sound too confident there.
I whatever.
Why? Yeah, it's the first time ever, and it's a lot of weird things going on with this game.
So it opened at -1 in favor of the Eagles. I pulled these lines yesterday, so you can tell me if they've changed. It is now at Eagles -2.5.
Yeah, mostly 2.
And I don't have a whole lot on this game, so I'm going to let you take this one.
Well, I mean, there's so much to talk about with the change of the Eagles, and obviously that's where my heart is. Take it for what it's worth from picking this game. But I'm going Eagles, obviously.
Of course.
A lot of people, I think, are hot on Green Bay. They like Jordan Love. Let's face it. They probably should have beat San Francisco in the playoffs last year. So I love the way Green Bay is coming into this season, hungry and after a tough loss and a young quarterback and a young overall team coach, from an NFL coaching perspective. He's young. I love where they're heading out for this season. But let's talk about Philly. I mean, if you follow this podcast, how I felt about the offensive and defensive coordinators for the Eagles last year, and they're gone. So there's new, coordinators that know what the hell they're doing. Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio.
Does Kellen Moore know what he's doing? I feel like he might be a little overrated.
Okay, so he is probably overrated, right? But it's where you're coming from and where you're going, right? Like if Kellen Moore was the offensive coordinator last year, I probably wouldn't have been as excited with him taking over for Steichen. But we were in Drek. We were an offensive coordinator, Drek. Coordinator last year didn't have a clue. And definitely translated to poor play on the field when we got to the end of the season. But anyway, let's talk about this year, right? So you got the addition of Saquon Barkley, super high on that. God. I mean, Saquon Barkley is now behind an offensive line that actually can block. So I expect the world out of him. Obviously, there's the injury concern, right? They traded.
Personally, I just don't think that a running back is going to like make or break you. So.
Well, I agree, but when you add it to the offensive talent, remember the big deficiency. I mean, there was a lot of problems with the way that the season ended last year, but the major concern is the defense and the defense giving up points, right? The offense has a lot of skill set players. So they have a ton of good offensive linemen, a ton of good receivers. You know, they got Johan Dotson from the Redskins who, okay.
What's his name?
He's Dotson. He is a first round draft pick, like 16th overall 2 years ago. And is he the greatest receiver ever? No. But when you add him to this offense as a number 3 and the third best cornerback is going to be covering him, and then you have Saquon inside there. You also don't forget Dallas Goedert. A.J. Brown obviously is the bell cow. And let's not sleep on Devonta Smith, who's also a bell cow on the other side. Okay. So I look for Jalen Hurts, who's had a great training camp, to bounce back. I think that Nick Sirianni, even though I believe it's only 3 seasons, right? That this is his 4th.
You would know better than me.
Yeah, he's undefeated. He's undefeated in.
Well, what year did
openers.
you win the Super Bowl? Because then Peterson had one more year, right?
Yeah, that was 17 and 18 Super Bowl. So he did it in 19 and then 20 with COVID with Sirianni, right? So 20, 21, 22, 23. All right. So this is he's had 4. And regardless, he's undefeated in however many it is. So I like Philly here. It stays under 3. Eagles get the win in Brazil.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Jordan Love. Everybody seems to be like all over him. But as far as I remember from last year, I mean, he had like a handful of good games at the end of the season.
Yeah. He's very inconsistent.
They signed him though, right? To a pretty big contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have a lot of talented wide receivers there. For me, like the Eagles, in my mind, I always think the Eagles have a good defense, but I have to remind myself last year they did not have a good defense. Right. So I think it could be a competitive game. I'm not picking it. So
yeah, there's a tons of things going on with their defense too. It just came out that their starting cornerback is basically their starting cornerback's going to be out. They're then going to take their first round draft pick Mitchell and put him in on the outside full time. They were going to rotate him between when it was nickel. They were going to play him in the slot. So you're going to be missing him. They're also the guy who's got the most reps in the middle of the defense at linebacker, twisted his ankle, and there's rumors as to whether he actually won the job because Nakobe Dean, who was a 3rd round draft pick of the Eagles 3 years ago, has basically what they're saying is it outplayed him and has won the starting job. So there's a lot of turmoil there. If White from Tampa Bay, who the Eagles brought in as, on the first day of free agency, whether he's even going to be an Eagle when they get back to Philadelphia. So we'll see.
Why?
Well, here's the deal. The Eagles are saying that he twisted his ankle and it's no big deal.
Oh, is that who you were talking about?
Yeah. White.
Devin White?
Yeah. But there's rumors that they tried to trade him to San Francisco, or that there was a trade on the table and they were thinking about it. The story is that Nakobe Dean, even though the Eagles aren't admitting it, like beat him out for the middle linebacker job. So what's probably going on is White is acting like a little bitch because he didn't win the job. He's saying he tweaked his ankles. How are you the big free agent in linebacker? And if you're a good team player, your ass is on that plane going to Brazil with the team, but he's staying home. He tweaked his ankle and he's staying home for treatment. Come on. Are you kidding me? So basically
nobody wants to go to Brazil. So
the realistic situation is that he got beat out by Nakobe Dean and he's crying, and the people in his camp are telling him, force the trade.
All right.
The Eagles are going to want to hold on to him because Nakobe Dean hasn't proved that he is stable and can't get injured because he's been injured the first 2 seasons.
We spent way too much time on that game. Moving on to Sunday.
Coming out firing, baby. Go Eagles.
Moving on to Sunday.
Let's do it.
Okay. First game up is the Titans at the Bears. It opened at Bears -4.5. I have it still at -4.5. So initially when I saw this game, I liked it. And then I had to remember that it's not my Titans anymore. So, like, if Mike Vrabel was still the coach, this is the spot where he would have his team ready for this game against the Bears with their new shiny toy, Caleb Williams, first overall pick in the draft. But it's not. And I don't know what to make of the Titans. So they have Brian Callahan as their head coach. Derrick Henry obviously is gone. They do have Will Levis. Did they sign Calvin Ridley?
They got a lot of good players. I mean, if they're putting together an all-star team.
They need an offensive line, though. They still don't have a very good offensive line,
the key
which
is
was
they
the
got
problem
Tony
last
Pollard.
year.
They got Tony Pollard from the Cowboys, right? And a lot of people are more high on Tyjae Spears, who's backing up running back for Tony Pollard in the Tennessee Titans.
You're going from Derrick Henry. Like, anything you have is a downgrade.
Yeah. And DeAndre Hopkins is there, don't forget, but he's questionable. He might not be playing. Tyler Boyd over from Cincinnati.
So the bottom line on this game for me is I can't take a rookie quarterback in his first start in the NFL as a 4.5 point favorite. So I do have to lean in the direction of taking the points with the Titans, but it's not a play for me.
Well, look, the line's going up to 5.5.
Really?
Is that 3.5? What's that say? I mean, I should have brought glasses up here.
Where is it? Titans.
Is it 3.5?
3.5.
All right, it's down to 3.5. So,
okay. So that makes sense.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. It's too many points. I mean, I'm not in love with Tennessee in this spot, you know? And this is one of those games where it's like, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I don't have a great read on where both of these teams are going to be. I know they're both fan bases are fired up thinking that they're, made a big step forward this year. At the end of the day, I just think it's too many points. If it's over 3, like you said, Chicago has the rookie quarterback and he's a 3.5 point favorite in his first game.
Yeah.
So I think you got to take Tennessee here.
Yep. Okay. All right. Next game is the Steelers at the Falcons. Opened at Falcons -2.5. It's up to Falcons -3.5. So the Falcons have a new coach, Raheem Morris, and a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins. The Steelers are starting, I believe, still Russell Wilson, although I heard something on the radio about him being questionable with some thing. So I guess keep an eye on that because they have Justin Fields there.
Justin Fields is the backup. So they had a huge competition for a starting quarterback, and they just came out within the last week to say that Russell Wilson is a starter. But I think that was probably, expected.
And one other interesting point on this game, Arthur Smith was the head coach of the Falcons. He got fired at the end of last season. He is now the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. He took a lot of criticism in his time as the head coach of the Falcons for not using his star players appropriately, namely Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts. So I don't necessarily think that this is a good gig for him. Like, I'm surprised that the Steelers hired him in that role. I worry a little bit about Kirk Cousins going up against a good defense, but I do have to lean Falcons on this one. I would prefer it closer to 3.
Okay, so I think I'm higher on Atlanta for the season, but I like Pittsburgh in the game.
Okay.
I think it's Kirk Cousins' first game in Atlanta. And
it's Russell Wilson, though.
I know, but I like Pittsburgh. I think they come in with a dog mentality. And, I like the fact that they got the new offensive coordinator. And I like Najee Harris. And I think the competition between Najee Harris and Jalen Warren at running back allows the two of those running backs to feed off each other and drive harder during the game. I like Russell Wilson. I think, he just needs to, think about this. The knock on Russell Wilson is that at the end of his career in Seattle, he just kind of got too big time, right? Got the money and he kind of went Hollywood. And then, when he went to Denver, he had his own office. He kind of was like segregated away from the team. Like he was the big star player and it didn't go well. That stuff does not fly in Pittsburgh. So I'm sure that all that has been washed under. That concern should be washed away because Tomlin's not going to allow his quarterback to act that way.
But is Russell Wilson good?
I think he is.
I don't think he is.
He wasn't in that playboy mentality. Like he was the man. He was better than everybody, and that's the way he acted. I think he gets knocked down here by the coach. If he earned a job, then the coach liked what he saw enough to say, this is a guy that we can get behind. So I'm going to give Russell Wilson the benefit of the doubt because I believe in the thick of things that he is the quarterback that was there in the beginning of his career that led Seattle to the Super Bowl. And I think that Tomlin's the right guy to get that dog back in him so that he can get the ability to win football games again.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll find out on Sunday.
But with that being said, long term, I'm worried about that. Is a concern. I just think that Russell Wilson, Russell Wilson, that he goes big time again, and he turns out to a punk. You got to worry about once a punk, always a punk. So
I don't know. I almost feel like maybe he really was never that good, and we didn't give Pete Carroll enough credit.
It's possible, but I know Russell. I know what I saw with my eyes, and that guy was pretty damn good.
Okay.
Up until a certain point after he won the Super Bowl. So
we're on the opposite sides of that one, I guess.
Yeah.
Next game is the Jacksonville.
Plus, they're getting more than a hook. I mean, they're getting more than 3 points. So you gotta like that. It's a 3-point game.
Okay. Next game, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Miami Dolphins. Opened at Dolphins -3.5. It is still at Dolphins -3.5. So last year it worked out pretty well with the Dolphins. If you just played whatever team they were playing, do they have a record greater than 500? Because the Dolphins could beat up on really bad teams, but when they went up against good teams, they just couldn't compete. I kind of expect it to be the same way this year. The one thing I don't know is what the Jags are. Now, I know what you're going to say the Jags are, but I probably disagree in what the Jags are. So I'm going to consider the Jags a bad team, and I'm taking the Dolphins.
I am once again on the Jaguars bandwagon. I admit that last year was a disappointment. And in the beginning of the season, they kind of showed signs that they were that team. And that Doug Peterson was that guy. But I believe in Lawrence.
You believe in Doug Peterson.
I believe in Doug Peterson.
And you believe in Trevor Lawrence.
And Trevor Lawrence.
I do not believe in Trevor Lawrence. I maybe believe in Doug Peterson a little bit.
That's fair. But I'll tell you what I do like is I like the others that I like is Travis Etienne, right? And Brian Thomas Jr. out of, I believe, LSU is an absolute stud. He's the rookie receiver that they have.
Well, so he might be the best receiver that they have because their wide receiver one is Christian Kirk.
Who's not bad. I mean, he's definitely overpaid, right?
They realized that the Calvin Ridley
Davis from Buffalo.
The Calvin Ridley experiment was a failure.
So remember, Gabe Davis is down there. They're running a 3 wide receiver set.
Yeah, Gabe Davis is not that good either.
Well, I'm saying that Brian Thomas is. So Gabe Davis probably needs like that other dog on the other side that we saw with Stephon Diggs. Which could be interesting. Buffalo, they don't have Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs anymore.
Yeah, we're going to get to a few of these teams.
But I like Jacksonville in this game. Again, this is very similar. When I looked at these games, the Jacksonville game, our picks are in different order, but we ironically have these two games, the Pittsburgh Atlanta game and the Jacksonville Miami game, right next to each other on the same lists and on different lists. And they're both 3.5 road dogs. And I like both of the road dogs. So again, I said Pittsburgh, but I like Jacksonville's in the same situation here. They're going to go into Miami, and I see this as another 3-point game. Take the hook.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, even if this is Thursday night, so if these lines change down to 3, which is possible, could happen. I mean, I would still take the road teams and take the 3 points. If it's a 3-point game, then you push. No big deal.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Next game is the Patriots at the Bengals. Opened at -8 in favor of the Bengals. It's at -8.5. So this is going to be the Patriots without Belichick. Gerard Mayo is the new head coach. Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starting quarterback. He's a bit of a journeyman, but he has had his moments where he has been a serviceable starter.
Did I see where Belichick just got a Twitter account? It was the first time on social media. I just saw something today. I don't know what the platform is. I think it was Twitter, but don't quote me. But he was on something, I think, because he's a broadcaster now.
Is he a broadcaster?
And social media almost collapsed because everything.
Can I just tell you how excited I am for Tom Brady to do a broadcast?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to bring this one up.
Because you know how much I love Tony Romo. as a broadcaster.
You love this guy 10 times more.
Well, I think like people.
You don't
some
know. You
people
never heard him
don't like
broadcast,
Romo,
did you?
but Brady doesn't get enough credit for like he does have a personality. Like he is funny. And he knows the game.
I'm going to tell you this right now. Tom Brady has 20 times more of a personality than Tony Romo.
Yeah,
Tony Romo is a dead fish.
Like Tony Romo can be annoying. I don't think Tom Brady's annoying. But I liked Romo because he would kind of tell you what like the quarterback is seeing, like what's going to happen. Like he was analyzing it from that quarterback perspective. So I expect a lot of that from Brady. Now, the one thing I did hear though, is that because he's trying to get like partial ownership in the Raiders, he's not allowed like in the buildings. So how they do those like production meetings where like they'll sit down with the quarterback from like whatever team is playing the game they're broadcasting and like talk about stuff beforehand, he's not allowed to be there.
Because he could give the Raiders information.
I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, so I mean, that's obviously going to be a negative, but it'll be interesting.
Can we go back to Tony Romo real quick for a second? Do you remember I was in Las Vegas for a work conference earlier in the year and I saw Tony Romo at the high rollers table? Mm-hmm. Dude was sitting at a table all by, I was talking about a dead fish. He's sitting at a high rollers table all by himself, dropping $10,000 a hand on blackjack.
Yeah.
And there's tons of players around. It was right before the Super Bowl. It was about a week before the Super Bowl. There's a lot of players rolling around and nobody's talking to Romo. And he's just in the zone, cracking his drink, dropping 10 grand a hand. I mean, if I was making that kind of salary, I'd be dropping 10 grand a hand too in Vegas. But it was just funny because, you know, he has no personality.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So
we're talking to New England here, right?
Yeah. This is a game. I mean, I don't know what to expect out of the Patriots. So I would, and this is actually going to be my survivor pick is the Bengals because I was like, it's week 1. I'm just going to take like the best bet game and do it that way. And then I realized.
When you say best bet, do you mean the biggest line?
Yeah. And then I realized like I've done that in the I haven't made it past week 1 in Survivor in like Cincinnati. 3 years.
Don't take Cincinnati.
So I'm like kind of second guessing myself.
I wouldn't second guess yourself here. I mean, I think there's no way.
But like, I'm sure I've said that before, like week 1, because I know like a couple times I've been bounced. Like, yeah.
You should find out who your survivor pick is and listen to your podcast pick of the game and see how confident you are. But I'm pretty sure.
One thing I will say, like, I mean, I remember last year I had like a teaser card, like 10 games, and it was the Rams and Commanders, and the Rams were winning. But then it got to like garbage time, and then Jacoby Brissett comes in and he was just throwing bombs to Terry McLaurin. So, I mean, Jacoby Brissett is serviceable.
Is he starting for New England?
Yeah. But then it's like, who's he throwing it to in New England? They do have that one Demario Douglas guy, but he would probably be their best like wide receiver. So I don't know if he has like the horses to do it, but that made me a little bit nervous. So I would take the Bengals here just because I don't know what to expect of
Jalen Polk, KJ Osborne, who was there, last couple of years, and Demario Douglas are the receivers. So
he's kind of like the fast guy, but
you gotta think that teams are going to focus on him, but Ramondre Stevenson's going to get a lot of touches there.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I just think that Joe Burrow is going to come out this year firing. Like people are really like down on Joe Burrow. Like nobody's really. There's not a lot of buzz about him, I should say.
Yeah, he wasn't in like the last half of the season. The one question I have, Jamar Chase, like was he like not playing because of like some contract issue, but I didn't think he was like up for a contract.
No, he's not up. He's holding out. Like with all this more money out there.
Yeah,
there's a lot of players like Hassan Reddick and the Jets. They want up their share of the cash. So Chase is basically questionable as to whether he's going to suit up because he doesn't have a new deal yet.
Yeah, but he did go to practice, but then like he was like something happened. So
Cincinnati has said that. They have trust, and Joe Burrow is also quoted as saying that they have trust that Chase will do the right thing and come in and play. So it's funny because I heard Ross Tucker on a radio show earlier in the week, and he was talking about a similar situation like we were talking about Hassan Reddick. And what he said, Ross Tucker used to play, offensive lineman in the league for a couple teams. And what he said is that he would go in the camp and then, fake an injury.
Well, but that's what. So he returned to practice, but then he had like some. I don't know.
Yeah, because the deal is there's a new rule in place, the collective bargaining agreement with the players, and if they for every day they miss, they have to give back like $250,000. You get fined $250,000, and the difference is that like you cannot get out of it. Like you have to pay that money. It's not reversible. The team can't waive it. He has to pay that money. So that's what Ross Tucker's point was, is that it'd be damned if I'm going to give the money back. I'll show up and then fake an injury, and then you can't find me because I'm in camp, but I'm still not playing until you give me my contract. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a wink, wink, like he's not really admitting to it, which I have to admit, that's a very smart plan. So that's probably what Chase is doing. Riddick's a little stupid. He's sitting out of camp and it's not, but we haven't got to the Jets yet. So I don't expect Chase to actually play. No? The first game. No, I think he'll probably sit the first game, and maybe this will last the second game, and then the Bengals will get smart and be like, we can't win the Super Bowl doing this, so here's your money.
But say he's not up for a contract, though. No. I guess, yeah.
No, he's holding out for a new one.
Okay, but if you're under contract,
unless he'd just be a free agent and go get more money, but he's under contract, so he's holding out. That's the holdout part. It's only a holdout if you're under contract.
But so like Brandon Ayuk was a free agent, right?
No.
Like he needed a new contract.
No.
He was. Oh.
He was holding out as well.
All right. Well, whatever. But
think about it. If you're
these
otherwise
guys,
you go sign. You can't hold out on a team when you're not signed and you don't have a team. What are you holding out for? More money?
Well, I don't. These guys like. I know they want it. Like you're the best wide receiver, so you want to be paid as the best wide receiver. But these guys make a shit ton of fucking money, and they ought to be happy with what they get.
Typically, I'd say yes. Typically, I'd say yes, and I'm not saying you're ridiculous. Not wrong. You're totally right, right? But the game has changed, Jaclyn. It's different. There's much more money. The salary cap has gone way up, so a lot of teams have money under the salary cap to spend.
I know,
it's
but
whether they want to give them money or not.
Like. Well, and maybe not. I don't.
If I'm Jamar Chase, I'm the number one receiver on that team, and I'm probably top 3 receiver in the league, and they're not paying anybody any money other than Joe Burrow, and I know that they're $50 million under the cap. You're goddamn right. I'm going to say, give me another $20 million.
But how much does
when everybody else that's worse than him is getting more money?
How much does Tyreek Hill make a year?
A shit ton more than.
But how much? Like
I don't know.
10 million.
Let's look it up.
50 million.
Keep talking.
I'm just like the quarterbacks obviously have get a lot of money. Like they're making 50 million a year. Like you can't spend $50 million in a year. Like that's a lot of money. It's plenty of money. You don't need more money that you can't spend because it's too much money. It's a lot of money, and I would be happy with it if I was them.
Oh yeah. So base salary. I mean, he's making 29. 10. It's weird because it's all the total's $41 million, so it's hard to break it down in a per year basis. But he's making more money than Jamar Chase is. Anyway, let's continue.
Okay. All right. So next game is the Texans at the Colts. Open at -1.5 in favor of the Texans. It's at Texans -2.5. This is a division game. These teams split last year. They played early in the season. That was one of the games that Anthony Richardson started. I don't think he finished it, though. Colts won that game pretty handedly, and then they played towards the end of the season, basically to get into the playoffs, and the Texans won. I think it was a 1-point game. So it will be Anthony Richardson back as the starter. He did only start 4 games, and he didn't finish all of them. So not really sure what to expect. Shane Steichen has done a good job down there as the head coach. I am what?
I just looked it all up. You want to talk? You want to go back?
No, I don't.
Guess how much Tyreek Hill makes a year?
How much?
$30 million.
Okay.
Guess how much Jamar Chase makes?
7.
You're looking at the screen.
Yes, I am.
He's making $7.7 million. That's less than a third.
But then just wait until the contract's up this year, and then you renegotiate, and then you get even more because it's a year later, and the money goes up.
Listen, at
another
the end of the
10.
day, you got a contract. It's on Jamar Chase, the timing and how everything worked out. They knew the salary cap was going to go up in a collective bargaining agreement. They should have negotiated a buyout or something, or a renegotiation. I agree with you, and it sounds like I'm arguing that Jamar Chase is justified, and I'll never say justified for not playing on your contract that you signed. However, he's grossly underpaid for the skill set that he has.
But look at Brock Purdy. He's making $1 million a year.
I agree. He should hold out.
Patrick Patrick Mahomes is making what? Like
Brock Purdy.
100?
Well, it's tough because Brock Purdy, the situation he's in, San Fran could be like, I'm just going to give you another quarterback. But Brock Purdy is, if anyone should hold out, it probably should be him because that guy's like one hit away from the end of his career. He's so small.
Whatever. All right, moving on. Do you have a pick on the Texans versus the Colts?
Yeah, I like the Colts because, what is it, a 3-point game?
2.5.
2.5. I think in this game, you don't think about it. It's Colts division game at home. And the majority of the public, I believe, is all over Houston. I like Houston as well. They got, CJ Stroud, if he progresses from what he did last year, I think he had, 31 touchdowns or so. That's a great season. And if he's going to progress from that, look out. They got Stephon Diggs came over from Buffalo, right?
Which they didn't even need him.
The Cincinnati running back,
I think
Joe Mixon.
They got too many.
Joe Mixon running back.
Too many wide receivers down there.
They do. Who do they have? Tank Dell.
And Nico Collins.
Nico Collins is pretty good, right? So when and from what I'm being told is my sources tell me that Stephon Diggs is the undisputed number one receiver there and that he will be.
Who are you talking to? Stephon Diggs?
Stephon Diggs told me. So he's going to be the focal point of that offense.
It's a recipe for disaster. That's all I got to say.
But let's say
it's too many
Stephon
mouths.
Diggs didn't have a good year last year, right?
Because him and Josh Allen
had some kind of problem, right?
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that
they
Stephon
had that going
Diggs,
into the season, and everybody tried to be like, no, everything's fine, but it was never fine.
Exactly,
because he's that type of guy.
But
he's going to sit out because he's got to renegotiate his
So you look at fantasy picks, right? Like Stephon Diggs is ranked as into the 30s receiver. That dude's should probably be a first round pick. When it's all said and done this year, I would bet over Stephon Diggs on any props for the season for touchdowns because if they throw him the ball like they used to throw him, he hasn't diminished his skill set.
No, but with the other guys that they have on the field, he is not going to get enough targets to keep him happy, and it's going to be Diva City down there. So
I disagree. I think when you're coming from maybe that's the situation next year or the year after, but not this year. You just did it. You can't do it. You can't do it back-to-back years, babe.
I know, but Buffalo was not an isolated incident. He was in Minnesota, and he had issues there too. So, but anyway, all right. So I like the Texans.
Didn't have a quarterback.
They're going to be
Minnesota.
My new favorite team now.
Texans?
Yeah.
I thought for sure it'd be the Ravens with Derrick Henry.
No, I like Derrick Henry, but I can never really get behind the Ravens. I like CJ Stroud. I like the Texans. And I feel like I might be a little bit blinded. Like that game at the end of the season, I took the Texans. It ended up being like a 1-point game. So it wouldn't surprise me if this ends up being somewhere in the middle.
Well, we named a lot
I
of players.
think probably the right pick is the Colts.
Well, we named a lot of players from Houston that are good and a lot of new guys. But the one that I like the most, the person that's associated with the franchise I like the most is the head coach, D'Amico Ryans. I think that guy gets his players up to play. And, they outplayed their talent level last year. I'm really excited to see what he does for this season. Again, it's another situation like with the Falcons in Pittsburgh where I like Atlanta more in the season. I like their outlook, but I like Pittsburgh this week in week 1. Same thing here. I like Houston. I think a lot of people love Houston, but I like Houston and I like Indy in this game.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go Indy.
Remember Jonathan Taylor finished strong and he's looking to, have a really huge season to get back. Jonathan Taylor was the number 1 fantasy pick 2 years in a row, 4 and 3 years ago. So don't sleep on Jonathan Taylor.
All right, we got to get this moving because we're at half an hour and
it's the first one, man. We're excited to get back on the radio and talk to the people.
All right.
Give them winners.
Next game is the Vikings at the Giants. It opened at -1 in favor of the Giants and it has shifted to -1.5 in favor of the Vikings. And I have no idea why that would happen because who was supposed to be the Vikings quarterback and he got hurt. So now they're down to Sam Darnold. I mean, what a fucking shit show this game is.
I love Sam Darnold. I still love him.
I'm surprised you didn't say it. You've actually learned how to say his name at least.
I'll forget it again. But I think that he's in a better situation than he was with Carolina.
I know, but Sam Darnold, wasn't he drafted by the Jets? It was the Adam Gase Jets. So you're yes, sure. Yeah. Maybe he's good and he just never had a chance. But now he's been 8 different places and he still has never been successful. So I give up on Sam Darnold.
Well, the starting quarterback was supposed to be J.J. McCarthy from the University of Michigan that they drafted.
Rookie, right?
Yeah.
So Giants, Daniel Jones, I just see more of like what happened last year. We watched the Hard Knocks. They were all excited about this wide receiver and these other guys that they drafted, and they never even mentioned their fucking shitty ass offensive line. So I don't have any hopes that the Giants are going to do much this year. The Vikings do have Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator, so I'm going to go on that basis, and I am actually taking the Vikings, but I generally don't advocate placing your money on games that are a complete shit show, which this one qualifies.
Dome team traveling to the Northeast in the first game of the season. I'm going to take the Giants. I don't like the Giants for all the reasons you said. Their offensive line still sucks. I don't like Daniel Jones, and I think the GM's a dope, but he's not playing the game, right? I don't like the Giants for the season, but I do think if you're going to give them points, that you should take the home dog here. Giants squeak out a win somehow.
Do you remember
miraculously.
week 1 last year? The Giants
Was it Green Bay?
No, it was the Cowboys, 40-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad.
All right. Next game is the Panthers at the Saints. This is also a division game. I don't have a whole lot on this. I can't bet the Saints because I just never get it right. Like, they should be the better team. The line opened at -4.5. It's at Saints -3.5. I never get the Saints right, and I just don't want anything to do with this game.
Yeah, I just think that at home, you should probably take New Orleans. I think with the team that they have, Carr, I think he has another year in this offense, and he should be a little bit better. They have enough. The story is that they're using Taysom Hill again as like a utility player. He's running, he's throwing, he's blocking.
Oh my God, Taysom Hill.
So he should be highly involved in the offense.
When is Taysom Hill going to Denver?
I love Chris Olave playing
Olave
on the outside.
Yeah.
And Alvin Kamara is out there still trying to prove that he is relevant. And I'm not willing to really bet against Alvin Kamara this season.
Well, you know, what I said is that the Saints should be the better team, but I don't know that they are. So
you're going to leave it alone, or do you got to play?
No, I'm going to touch this game with a 10-foot pole.
I wouldn't touch the game either, but if you got to, I would take New Orleans.
Panthers do have a new head coach, who's Dave Canales, and he was the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, I'm pretty sure. He did a wonderful job last year with them Bucs as the offensive coordinator, so maybe he can turn things around there in Carolina.
Well, I don't know. I mean, from what I saw last season, I know a lot of people are high on him, but I think Bryce Young needs a lot of help. So,
well, he didn't have anybody to throw to. Didn't they get Deontay Johnson?
They do have Deontay Johnson, who, again, my sources tell me is going to get a lot of attempts, probably multiple, like double digits every game.
Yeah,
he's going to get passes thrown at him. So, Chuba Hubbard right now is the lead running back. Miles Sanders is on the bench, but Miles Sanders really hasn't done much in his career ever since coming into the league with the Eagles from Penn State. So Jonathan Brooks is the rookie that they drafted, but he's going to be out for this game and is out for the first 4 weeks. So
why? Hurt?
Yeah, he's hurt.
Oh, okay. All right. So you don't have a pick?
I would take New Orleans if you had to play it. Throw it in a parlay or something, but
I wouldn't do it. Don't lose your money on the Saints. I've done it too many times. All right, next game is the Cardinals at the Bills. It opened as Bills -7. It is at Bills -6.5. So we do have, this is a 1 o'clock game, I think. So Arizona is going to be traveling east for 1 o'clock start. My question, I guess on both sides of the ball in this game, is who the fuck is the quarterback throwing the ball to? Because Josh Allen don't have anybody to throw it to. And I don't think Kyler Murray does either. So Kyler Murray obviously missed the early portion of last season. I don't even think he started in the games until they were already essentially out of playoffs. So I don't know what to expect from Kyler Murray this year. I don't know what to expect of the Bills this year without like a clear number one receiver. It could be a big Dalton Kincaid thing, but I don't know what to do with this game.
I love Dalton Kincaid. He's going to absolutely light it up this year. They're big on some of the back end receivers that they had from last year that are going now thrusted into the starting role, right? Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman. They're big on. He's a rook, right? But Keon Coleman, they're big on, and he's going to be a starter. So they're going to lean heavily on James Cook coming out of the backfield. He had a good first year, really starting being the bell cow running back for Buffalo last year. So I look for big things out of him. But again, Dalton Kincaid, I think, is your man. He was the first round draft pick, tight end from last year. He started getting a lot of action towards the end of the season, and looks like a strong player. So we'll see what Josh Allen has in him. But for this game, again, I still like the Bills for this season. I think I like their outlook better than Cardinals, but I think the Cardinals can definitely come in here and keep the game within the point spread.
Yeah, I think they can too, but then I have this vision in my mind of Kyler Murray throwing a pick in the fourth quarter at the end of the game when he has a chance and then he blows it. So I'm not touching this game. I like
Kyler Murray. I'm big on Kyler Murray this year. I think he bounces back with this offense. I think, it was kind of a disservice last year. The new coaches came in. The old defensive coordinator from the Eagles, Jonathan.
Gannon.
Yeah, who I hate, but he did do a good job. He did an admirable job head coaching last year for the lack of talent that they had.
They beat you guys, didn't they? Kicked your ass.
Everybody beat us. It was
all right, next game. Next game is the Raiders at the Chargers. Chargers are 3-point favorites. This is a division game as well. So obviously Jim Harbaugh is taking over as the Chargers coach. The Raiders are starting Gardner Minshew at quarterback. He is another journeyman who has been serviceable at times. He is going to be playing behind a decent offensive line, and he does have, I heard on the radio, they said that Gardner Minshew is a first read quarterback. So if your first read is Devontae Adams, you're not in too bad a shape. I also have to question in this game who the hell Justin Herbert is throwing the ball to. Keenan Allen was a bit of a security blanket. He is gone. Mike Williams, who was Mike Williams, is also gone. Even Austin Eckler is gone. I got to take the Raiders. What you got?
I like the Raiders. Gardner Minshew, baby.
Okay. All right. Same side of that one. I actually like the Raiders too much.
I'm really curious to see what Gardner Minshew is going to do with a talent like Devontae Adams.
Did you listen? I love when you don't listen at all, then you repeat the stuff that I say. All right. Next game is the Broncos.
Did you say something?
At the Seahawks. Open at Seahawks -4.5. It's up to 5.5. So Mike McDonald took over as the head coach of the Seahawks this year. He was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens. He got a lot of credit for his work in that position. Sean Payton is his second year as the coach of the Broncos. He has a really bad record week 1 over the course of his career. I don't remember the numbers, but I heard that on the radio. He's also starting Bo Nix, who I don't know who the fuck that is. But he is obviously a rookie. So I think I got to take the Seahawks.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get to Javonte Williams on the Denver side, and the receivers seem ominous with Cortland Jones.
They got rid of Judy, right?
Bo Nix is a quarterback from Oregon, so he was a 12th overall pick. So
tough place to go and get a win, though, on your first NFL start.
I'm just going to make it simple on this one. This is my best play of the week. You're going to tell me Bo Nix, a rookie quarterback, is going to go into Seattle against the 12th man atmosphere and beat Geno Smith and Seattle? I don't think this one is. Maybe they can keep it close because Sean Payton is a good, offensive mastermind. But I think at the end of the day, they're going to get smashed. Third quarter, fourth quarter, pulled away, probably double digits. I'm going Seattle. It's my number one play.
Okay, I'm with you on that one. All right, next game is the Cowboys at the Browns. It opened at Cowboys -1.5. It shifted to Browns -2.5. So Cowboys are another team kind of like the Dolphins. They can beat up on bad teams, but they can't compete with good teams. Browns have a very good defense, and they were much better at home last season. I obviously still don't love Deshaun Watson as the quarterback there in Cleveland. I don't think they do either. But I got to go with the Browns defense against Dak. And the Cowboys are back to Zeke as their starting running back, which is kind of weird. And other than CeeDee Lamb and maybe the tight end Ferguson, they don't have a whole lot going on there. They also lost Dan Quinn, who did do a very good job with their defense in the last couple of years or last year. So,
well, Zeke looks like he's got the number one, spot as the running back, but don't sleep on Rico Dowdell. He's the backup running back, and he should get a lot of carries for the team. But I like Dallas for the season. I think they have a strong team. They usually do. And, Dak is, at the end of the day, he's going to have them with a playoff type of record. Whether they're good enough to get in, they might miss by a game.
Generally frauds at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they don't win in the playoffs, so it doesn't matter.
Are they going to beat Jim Schwartz's defense?
They're irrelevant from an aspect of playoff football. They're just irrelevant. It's not the 90s anymore, right? Let's get on to Cleveland, and the pick that I'm going to take is Cleveland. I'm looking for Deshaun Watson. If Deshaun Watson is going to do anything the rest of his career, it's going to be this season with this defense, right? They got the firepower with him. Jerome Ford is going to be in there. We'll see if Nick Chubb can get back into the grind this season at all. I mean, he's coming off the devastating knee injury. He's a bunch of weeks away, right? But Jerome Ford looked like that he had some talent at the end of last season, scored a bunch of touchdowns. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy is over from Denver.
Njoku, who...
The tight end?
Yeah, became very relevant for Joe Flacco. But the guy is a beast, and he did pretty well. I don't know why he can't develop any chemistry with Watson. But.
Oh, and Elijah Moore's in there too, right? We're going to have to see if Deshaun Watson... What concerns me about Deshaun Watson is it looks like that time out, he probably didn't throw a football at all because he had elbow injuries last year, and he had problems flat out that they were, not normal quarterback. Normally, quarterbacks throw the ball around all day in practice, and they don't get arm soreness.
I guess that's what happens when you get 275 guaranteed.
Yeah.
All
well,
right.
also, you know what I mean? When you don't have to use your arm anymore in certain situations because you're going around looking for women.
Don't you think he uses his arm a lot, though?
I think he's using other ladies' arms while he's trying to get massages.
All right.
Anyway, I digress. I like Deshaun Watson in this situation.
Okay. All right. Same side of that one. All right. Next game is the Commanders at the Bucks. Opened at -4 in favor of the Bucks. It's at -3.5 in favor of the Bucks. So Washington also has a rookie quarterback, Jalen Daniels, and a new head coach, Dan Quinn. I think the Bucks probably overachieved last year with Baker Mayfield, and I do wonder if maybe we have to give Dave Canales a little bit of credit for that. He was the offensive coordinator there. He is gone since, but I don't know what to expect of Washington, so it kind of forces me to take the Bucks. But I feel like there could be a little bit of regression on the Bucks.
I'm not in love with this game, but I'm going to pick the Bucks.
Okay. All right. Next,
Washington rookie quarterback. That's really the main reason.
Yep. Next game, Rams at Lions. Opened at -3 in favor of the Lions. It's at -3.5 in favor of the Lions. Now, this is the classic revenge game. Stafford versus his former team. Goff versus his former team and former head coach.
They played last year, didn't they?
They have played twice. Once was a couple years ago, but last year they did play in the wild card round of the playoffs. Detroit won that game 24-23. Obviously, the Lions took a tough loss out of the playoffs last year. They could have been Super Bowl bound, but I digress. I do think the Lions will win this game. I think it will be a close game. Rams defense might be a little rough. They did lose Aaron Donald on that end, but they certainly have the offensive talent to keep up. So I do think the Lions win. I think it's probably a 3-point game. So
did I see Sam Laporte is hurt? Am I making that up?
He did have a questionable tie.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big difference. Sam Laporte is obviously a big target, but they have a lot of offensive weapons there with, my guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, might be my favorite player, non-Eagle, in the league. Mm-hmm. Love that guy. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, he won me 2 fantasy championships, basically. Mm-hmm. David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs, both running backs going to tally the scorecard, most likely. Mm-hmm. Jared Goff, pretty decent, right? But I like the Rams. I think they go in there. I think they get fired up. I don't know what McVay's plan is. All right. But my big coup of, let's say, the fantasy drafts that I was in, that was that I know Kyren Williams is pretty good running back, and he had some good numbers at the end of last year. But I don't believe that he can stay healthy, nor do I believe he can hold off Blake Corum from Michigan, the running back. Well, I think that guy is by week. I'm guessing here, right? Week 5, he's going to be the starting running back, but he's definitely going to be the starting running back before the season's over.
Let me ask you this, because I heard on the radio that Sean McVay has Kyren Williams returning punts.
He did, but what I recently read just today, is that they have Blake Corum back there returning punts as well. So I wouldn't read too. I was reading a lot into it, saying that Kyren Williams, because I did read that earlier in the week, that he was going to be the punt returner, but it was nothing about Blake Corum. So I figured, okay, you're going to take the punt returner. He must have lost the job or is not going to get as many snaps because you're going to protect the number 1 running back, right? But what I read today is that both Corum and Williams are going to be returning kicks. Returning kicks, because you're going to only really have one go-to punt returner, but on kick returns you have 2 guys.
Yeah, but there is no kick returns now.
There's kick returns. It's just modified rules. So basically what happens is the guy still kicks off the ball. The kicker still kicks the ball from the 35, but both teams are lined up 10 yards away from each other. Don't quote me on this. It's around the 40-yard line, the receiving team's 40-yard line, whatever. And I'm probably wrong what line it is, but neither players can move until the ball is received.
Right.
So, there's no building up a whole 50 yards of steam and blowing somebody up. So that's the difference. Yeah. But from what I observed...
But the whole thing is designed to make there less returns.
Yeah,
less injuries, I guess.
I wouldn't say less returns. That's definitely not what they want. If they could get a rule where there's a return every game, they would do that because it's exciting, right? And that's what you play for, is excitement. And that's not what I observed in the preseason. What I observed was nobody getting past the 35-yard line, definitely not the 40-yard line, and guys were still getting walloped. There were still a lot of big hits.
Well, all right. We'll talk about that later. Because I don't...
It's a dumb rule. I
still don't understand it.
You're going to see the rule's dumb.
I don't understand it, and I see them do it.
2 guys stand here. Guy kicks the ball off. Guys are still standing here. The ball's already. Guy receives it. Now they go.
But is there somebody back?
Yeah, 2 guys are back.
Okay. All right. So that, I guess, is the part that I wasn't.
2 guys are standing on the goal line.
Okay.
Waiting to receive the kickoff.
Okay.
Just like normal.
Okay.
But everybody else on the team, other than those 2 guys that are back, are up on the 40.
I've seen
or whatever
that.
line it is.
Okay. But doesn't that give the returner a head start?
Yeah, but they're doing it from so close that the guys can't.
Let's move on. Who's your pick? Rams?
Rams.
Same side. Okay. All right. And then the final game of the week is the Jets.
Know the rules before we sit in the podcast. I mean, are you serious? You don't know the kickoff rules before we come in here and you're making picks on games? I know that they
change, and I know that there's 2 lines of men standing across the field, but I still haven't conceptualized the whole thing.
Well, watch it. You watched the first half of the game. You couldn't see it. You just watched the first half of the Chiefs.
I did see it. I didn't see nobody.
Ravens game.
I didn't see nobody return a ball.
There was one return. The second one was returned. The first one was a touchback.
Yes. Okay.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Fine.
Last game. Monday night football.
Is it Monday night? Yeah. Okay. So Jets at the 49ers. Open at -6.5 in favor of the Niners. It's at -4.5 in favor of the Niners. So here we go again. Aaron Rodgers hype.
Monday night.
Will he make it past 4 snaps this year?
Is that what the over-under is? 4?
No, I don't know, but that's what he played last year. And I will tell you this, and I actually went back and watched this on YouTube the other day. He was under siege. The first snap was a handoff to the running back, but the next 3 snaps, the guy's coming at him.
Were they playing Buffalo?
Yes, I believe so. So their offensive line was bad last year. They did, though, make some additions to improve it. They got Tyron Smith from Dallas at the left tackle. And we were hearing, if you were watching tonight's game, about the Ravens offensive line because they lost 2 guys to the Jets, Morgan Moses and John Simpson. So they did improve the line. That does work in Rodgers' favor. Rodgers generally struggles with pressure up the middle. And I do remember when Brady and the Bucks played them in the playoffs. Or maybe it was the playoffs or the regular season. I don't know. But regardless, Todd Bowles just absolutely shut Aaron Rodgers down in that game. And I think that the 49ers can do the same. I think they can get to Rodgers. So I'm going with the Niners. But I will say this, and this is my classic preach. Monday night, Vegas wants their money back. So wherever the money is, you go opposite. So I like the Niners, and I kind of feel like everybody's going to be all over Aaron Rodgers, right? So that works in my
I'm all
favor.
over Aaron Rodgers, man.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see this guy light it up this year. I hope.
Yeah.
I have historically been an Aaron Rodgers hater. And somehow the impossible has happened that he has sympathy from me and empathy. Based
Now, wait a minute. And
that
we probably should mention this is what, a 41-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury.
Yeah. But that Jets team is stacked, baby. I mean, they have maybe the most underrated wide receiver, in my opinion, on that team in Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. He is awesome. And if Mike Williams can get his act together and get on the field and get healthy,
No,
Mike Williams coming
never
over
will.
from the San Diego Superchargers, that's going to be a great target for him as well. You got Bryce Hall, who's the running back, and they drafted Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, who, if he gets a chance, he's 220-pound running back, 6'1", 6'2". He's going to be a stud in this league when he gets the opportunity. But right now he's playing behind Breece Hall. So if he gets injured, they have a backup for him. I'm interested really to see if Tyler Conklin, the tight end, has a breakout season receiving balls from Aaron Rodgers. It'll be interesting to see if he gets him the ball with all that talent there. But I'm going to take the Jets. Would you like? We've gone the whole podcast without doing this. Can we bet on the Monday night game? $20
I guess I'm
bet.
gonna have to.
All right, I got the Jets.
What's
And
the
how much?
line?
4.5, baby.
All right.
I want 4.5.
All right.
All right.
Gonna shut him down, Aaron Rodgers. All right, so that
Happy to be back at football season, baby.
Yeah, that would way too long, but so that's
It's only 55 minutes.
yeah.
about average.
No, but it's too long.
We went fast last year. I mean,
Yes.
the other couple of years we were going an hour.
I feel like people want it fast though. People don't feel like listening to us for an hour.
They like listening to us because listen, you got
I
to
think
take it.
people should,
What you need to
but-
do is listen to the podcast. Not when you're in a rush. Sunday morning is the best time to listen to this thing while you're maybe getting ready for the games and you're trying to get your thoughts together on the game. We make
Nobody's
some really
gonna
good
spend
points.
an hour Sunday morning listening to us.
Some people do. You'd be amazed.
I mean, I
Let's be clear.
personally,
They're listening for your takes, not
personally,
mine.
I like a longer podcast. Like if it's not an hour long, I don't even bother to listen to it.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
But then I got some friends that they're like, could you just tell us the top 3 picks in the first 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Because they don't want to listen to anything. But you get all types. That's
All
not the game we're playing, though, here.
So that'll do it for us for week 1. If you're watching or listening, remember to like us and subscribe. And we'll see you back here next week. Peace out.